call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Are there any additions to the agenda? No additions? Could I have someone move to accept them, please? Councillor Lambert, all in favor? Carried. Staff Sergeant for the RCMP highlights. Good evening.
Thank you. I'll touch on quickly March stats. So January to March 2024, when compared to last year, January, March 2023, we're showing a 19.5% decrease in person crimes. So that's 29 fewer calls or offenses. Property crime for a total is a decrease of 18.8% and a 23.2% decrease in total criminal code offenses. Specifically, in certain areas, there is an increase of break and enters of 11.1%. That's an increase from 9 to 10. And 42.9% decrease in theft of motor vehicles, and an 80% increase in theft under 5,000. So in March, we had a total of 24 total persons offenses, 23 total property offenses, and 31 total other criminal code offenses. Our prisoner count for March is 178, which brings us to 603 for the year. So our current staffing levels, we have 3 vacant constable positions. We have 1 member that's still unable to work full duties. We do have 2 members identified to come fill our vacancies. They just haven't been issued the paperwork yet. And our NCO team is full right now. So looking not too bad. We just need to get that paperwork cut to get our new bodies here.
So when you have management, you don't have constables, and when you have constables, you don't have
Well,
management?
I'm hoping this summer we have both. So, but yeah, so that's sort of.
You're down 3 constables and 2 are coming?
Yes. So there's a member from Hinton who's been identified that's gone through the medical. They're just waiting for the staffing action to be issued. He and his family should be coming fairly quick because he's not having to sell a house. He's just renting. So I'm suspecting early summer he'll be up here. The Grand Prairie member, I think she does have to sell a house. She hasn't gone through any of the medical stuff. But we'll see how that goes. I'm still recruiting a young fella from Swan Hills. I'm trying to get cooperation from his boss to let him come up here early, which would put us in really good shape. So, yep. Now, some news. I am told that the RPAC nurse, someone's accepted the position. I'm told they're from BC, so I'm not sure how far along that is. I'm going to be seeing where the RCMP side is for that member obligation of it. I do know last time it was posted, there was at least 2 officers that were interested in the position. So that's quite promising that maybe we can get that and see the benefit it'll do for all our communities. So.
Yeah, our last meeting with the K Division was there was a member but no nurse.
Yeah, and I know 2 of the members that were interested before. I reached out to them saying, hey, keep your eyes open for this because it's probably going to be posted again. So hopefully that's something we see the benefit of this summer. So.
Councillor Welke has a question.
Turn me on.
You're on.
Sorry. The nurse, were they able to find the originally kind of designated psychiatric nurse, or did they have to modify the credentials for the position at all?
My understanding is the complete credentials of they're originally looking for.
Oh, okay,
so.
perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Okay, I do know you have been contacted by Mr. Michael
Yes.
Molman. So this is, it it really has nothing directly to do with our detachment here. I have been working with them. I asked them to sort of keep us engaged because if it's something that we need to be a part of or participate in, we want to do that. So essentially, this is a fairly new unit out of KDIV. They were here last year a little bit. I don't know if you remember the barbecue in the park that they set up. So it's the same group, and they've been reaching out to many agencies and groups within high level. And I think they're just trying to sort of build up a network and how we can help each other, maybe get some of the things we need in the area, such as like mental health issues or things of that nature. I think it's a good program. Michael seems nice on the phone when I chatted with him, so that's about all I know about that. They just sort of, hey, we're gonna be in town, or we're gonna be talking, or if, let's say there's an issue, they'll be sure to let us know. I have asked that if they are having meetings to let me know, and we're gonna try to be as active as we can, just so that it's important, right? And we wanna play a role in if things can be done better, or wanna play a role in that, so.
Did I send this to you? Okay. Oh, well, he's, yeah, no. What? Yeah, I thought I sent it to you guys. So we should meet with them?
I think so. I don't think it'll hurt. I told them, don't make promises on my behalf, because if I can't keep them, I won't. But if there's something on board that we can help with, and we say we will, we'll do it. So, that's sort of the caveat I played with them. It's like, we're all on board, but don't make promises for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Could we reach back to him and say, we'll meet with him? Or I can meet with him if the rest of council is busy? We can set up a virtual meeting.
What's council's wish? Do you want us to try and book a particular, or give you council a list of 3 or 4 dates and then see how many are able to make it? How would you like us to approach that?
Council?
It would most likely be a virtual meeting.
That's what I think is requested.
Yeah, we could meet June committee of whole if he's ready.
Okay.
Or May, I guess it is. We're only in April now.
Feels like.
I know. Okay, so you'll get back to
Yeah, so what we'll do then is we'll reach out to Michael, and then we'll circulate that information to all of council by email and kind of firm it up, I guess, virtually.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's no more questions, just before I go, I'm planning sort of our detachment goals as a detachment this coming year. I'm not gonna take a bunch of your time now. I'll maybe forward some emails. But I really wanna focus on some proactive type initiatives, warrant roundups, curfew checks, some foot patrols, if I understand that the enhanced shifts will be available. We'll be doing some foot patrols, but I'll send an email sort of what I'm planning, and if there's anyone or any ideas or things that we want to sort of measure, like school zone patrols. If last year, let's say we had 0, maybe this year our goal is for do 25, and we'll just mark that and try to hit our marks. So it's sort of like a game plan other than the normal calls for service, so.
So is that for the enhanced position or for the entire detachment?
The entire detachment. The enhanced position doesn't take complete ownership. It's everybody plays a role. So come morning, we're there before the school starts, so there's no reason why we can't be seen around those areas sometimes, and we'll start recording that and checking that off. So
I'm not sure that we talked about enhanced this year.
I got an email. I'm not sure where it's at. That's just sort of what I had heard. So
Yeah, I know, but did council talk about it other than it's an interim budget? CAO,
Sorry?
did you meet Staff Sergeant?
Not,
No,
not in the 12 hours.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm really rude.
I guess I just did.
Yeah,
Staff Sergeant
But-
Devron Dittmeyer, this is Ron Leaf, our interim CAO. Sorry.
Interesting. I was just writing down, set up a meeting with Staff Sergeant Dittmeyer.
Okay, set up a meeting and see what our enhanced position's gonna look like.
sounds good.
I'd like to see more action in the school zone.
I think we can do that, so.
All right. Thank you very much, council. Did you have any other questions? No? Okay,
So, thank you.
thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
So, 6-2 is the regular, oh no, 6-1 is the special council meeting. Could I have someone move those if there's no errors? Council, Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried. 6-2 is our April 8th regular council meeting. If there's no errors, could I have someone please move? Councillor Lebrion, all in favor? Carried. And April 15th, Committee of Whole,
April 12th.
or sorry, April 12th, sorry, special council meeting. Councillor Welke, all in favor? And you can tell there's a hockey game on. On April 15th, the Committee of Whole. Councillor Lambert, all in favor? Carried. Could I have someone move Staff Sergeant Devron's? Do you have that? Okay. All in, Councillor Anderson, Lydia? All in favor? Carried. So, moving on to my report. I sent it to everybody, but I just want to, let the world know that, we have hired interim CAO, Mr. Ron Leaf, from Clearwater County, and he will serve as our CAO until we can find a new one. Thank you to Director Schmidt and Director Phillips for serving as acting CAOs during the transition between former CAO Clark McCaskill's departure and the arrival Sunday of our interim, Mr. Leaf. So welcome to High Level.
Thank you, Council.
April 14th, I did go to the chamber, their Connect and Elevate event. It was at Fox Haven. It was a great opportunity to network and reconnect, and yeah, it was really good, and it was nice to see the chamber active. So thank you, Councillor Lambert and the chamber. Community catch-up. I wanted to thank Jenna, she's not here, but a big thank you to all the staff who took part in the community catch-up. It was fantastic to witness the numerous community members that were attending the market, as well as engaging in all the activities and eating the hot dogs. And the bouncy castles, of course, were a huge success. So thank you to all of you. And I was asked by a resident, and I wanted to talk to Director Clark about this, about the needs assessment survey, as some of the residents that live in the region, but not in high level, wanted to participate in this. And I said I would speak to council. And these residents are people from the county, Zama, Rainbow Lake, that use high level as their service area. And some of them work here, some of them send their kids here. So I feel that everybody's opinion is valued by our community, and therefore, council, I would like to have your blessing to allow people that are outside our community but use this area as a service area to fill out this needs assessment survey. What does council feel? Councillor Welke. No, you
That
weren't.
was a little bit quicker. Is it, I do have a copy of it, but I haven't filled it out myself. But is it, do you have to clearly designate where you are?
No, there's nowhere in the survey.
It's anonymous?
Yes.
Okay.
Put your name if you want. I'm on page 30 of 58, no. It's a very detailed in there. Is that all?
Yeah, I'll think further on it. We'll see what
Okay,
Councillor
Councillor Jessamine.
I have no concern with that. I guess the one way is that we have a clear opportunity for all to partake if that's the direction we're going in, and that it's accessible to them, so.
Deputy Mayor.
I guess as long as there's a way to confirm that they're actual users, even though they're not ratepayers. It's just some of the needs assessment may turn out to be budgetary items, and we wouldn't want that impacted by people that are outside our municipality. So,
Yeah, if we send it to people like in our county, like our county and Rainbow and Zama, maybe we can change it up so that there's a name and
Or at least where they're.
where they're from.
or what service they utilize, just because we send it to someone doesn't mean they couldn't forward it on to somebody else, and we could be getting things just like some of the Facebook stuff that comes from the Middle East or whatever.
I'm pretty sure they won't want to fill out that entire needs
No,
assessment.
but, we've seen some,
Can't that happen now, though?
I think
Yeah.
it's just sent out to the ratepayers, but,
No, but they could forward it on.
yeah, oh, for sure. But as long as we have a way to identify that they're actual users.
Councillor Jessamine.
Just clarification, so you said there were certain people out in the county that were interested in, and you just said that in your other comment here, you said we would send them. Are we sending them, or are we opening it up for people to utilize it?
Well, I guess they phoned me. I guess we wouldn't send it to them. I guess they'd have to come here to get them. They were handing them out at Community Catch-Up. And that's where the questions arose. Councillor Welke?
I agree with the deputy mayor, just trying to ensure that the information is accurate, but I do believe with a paper copy, we would not see problematic responses like we normally would with online surveys and that sort of thing. And perhaps if we just had them available for handout here at the town office, then we would know that anybody who did fill them out from this point forward had to come in and get one and take that time to do it. So again, increasing the reliability of, of the information we're obtaining back on the survey.
We didn't get an answer here yet, so.
Well, I'm just waiting. Any more comments? Yes.
Madam Mayor, if I may. I had an opportunity to talk with Bill just earlier this morning, thank you. And one of the things that we talked about was maybe even just putting a checkbox that would say other. So there are some ways that we can differentiate between town residents that are responding versus other. Another thing that Bill and I talked about is the website redevelopment. And there are some analytic tools that are available or being built in. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but this is an example, is that we've got that in our current website. And we took a look at, we had 200,000 respondents over the life of the website. 60% of those people that logged in went to the community services and were looking at the information with regard to your arena and your pool schedules. So in addition to the survey information that you're going to gather, is that we're also developing the website in such a way to provide council with some analytics there as well.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Jessamine?
No, he must have put that on. I didn't put it on. I don't know.
Bill's turning them on. All right, so council, do you agree we do this? I don't
Yes.
know, do we need a motion or it's in my report?
Yeah, so Madam Mayor, I can also, just because Director Clark is not here, I know that there is a task, like there is a group that is set up for the community needs survey. With council's motion, we could bring that back to them so they could bring it back from administration.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion then to have people that use high level as a service area, work area, school area, to be able to fill out the survey. All in favor? Carried. Could I have someone move my report, please? If you don't have any questions, do you have a question?
No, I'm gonna
Okay.
move your report.
Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. Committees with, that the councillors are appointed to, Deputy Mayor.
So on April 12th, I attended the special council meeting. On the 15th, CAO candidate interview. Also on the 15th, committee of the whole, and then on the 16th, a second CAO candidate interview.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
April 11th, I attended the Emergency Advisory Committee to-do that was held here in Councillor Chambers. Very well represented by staff, and I thought a very good learning tool. So kudos to Emergency Services that set that up. April 12th, I attended a special council meeting. April 15th and 16th, the interviews with CAO candidates. April 20th, I also attended the community catch-up, where we served some 300 hot dogs. And kudos to the staff that set that up. I think they did a great job, and it was busy. Burlington was very busy. April 22nd, Assessment Review Board, and also on April 22nd, I attended the introduction of this interim CAO, Mr. Leaf. That's all I have.
Did you have an assessment review board appeal?
No,
Oh, just a meeting?
no, of emergency.
Oh, the presentation.
The presentation that Rodney and his crew set up.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Councillor Lambert?
On April 9th, I attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting. On the 12th, also the special council meeting. And then on the 13th, helped set up and run the Connect and Elevate event with the Chamber. It was a great success, I thought. You attended yourself, so yeah, it was good to see the businesses come out and see what other people are doing, or other industries are doing, and have some guest speakers there as well, which was really nice. And yeah, because it's get the Chamber back on its track and go from there. On April 15th, I also attended the interviews with the CAO candidates, and then attended the staff update on the following Monday, I think. And then on April 20th, also attended the community catch-up, which was seemed to be a huge success as well. Nice to see everybody out there. And then on April 22nd, I attended the assessment review today.
Yeah, the chamber mixer was really, really nice. It was great to see you guys do it again.
We're hoping
And-
to do it at least once a quarter going forward.
We had a new business there, a denturist that has opened a business, and she is from High Level, so that was very nice to see her and her husband there. So thank you, Councillor Lambert. Any questions? No? Thank you. Councillor LeBrion.
Turned it off and Bill, there we go, sorry. On April 12th, I attended the special council meeting as well. April 13th was our comic book sorting day at the library. And then the 15th and 16th for the CAO interviews, the 15th Community of Whole, 17th had a high-level library board meeting, and the 20th was community catch-up, which was a great event. Thanks again. That's it.
Thank you. I skipped over Councillor Jessamine, sorry.
Okay. I have big shoulders. On the 12th, the special meeting, 15th, 16th, the CAO interview process that we followed through with. Friday the 19th, we had the staff meeting here, or just a brief staff meeting to discuss where we're going into the future. The 20th, the catch-up, great turnout. Yeah, very well done. And the other thing was really cool to see are the people that are outside of the town also volunteering and being coming alongside us. So I think that speaks loudly of people willing to put their time in and come along and support these events. So that's pretty cool. And then today we have the 22nd. We had this morning's introduction of our new CAO, the assessment this evening, and that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Welke.
April 12th, I attended the special council meeting as well. April 15th, I believe that was a meet with the staff in the morning, the town staff, and then CO interviews in the afternoon, committee of the whole in the evening. April 16th, more CO interviews, and then today, the Come Meet Ron session this morning. I'm not sure if Mr. Leaf was here, but Ron was definitely in the house, so. And then the assessment meeting prior to the council meeting tonight, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Could I have someone move council committee meetings, please? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried. Council's action list. I'm going to ask this question again. Where's the fire agreement at?
We're still trying to tie that down. Planning for last week, there was a death in the community and a series of events that preceded that, so we did not get to it. I was actually thinking about it today, just currently with current situation with wildfires and stuff. It might be difficult as we go forward. We'll have to work hard. I've reached out a few times to Bernard to make it happen and just have not had any return messaging from them. So I'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe actually I could link in with Ron and work as a team on that. We're trying to get a agreement with the local Denita First Nation for our fire services. So between the three of us, yeah, we could work together. That's it.
Thank you.
Wish I had better news, but.
Is there any questions on council reports? Seeing none, could I have someone move? Councillor
Are we moving the action list, or are we moving?
just the action list, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Jessen moves that. All in favor? Carried. Upcoming events. If there's no questions, could I have a mover, please?
I'll move for information.
Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Financial report.
Oh, Mayor and Council, if,
Sorry,
No, that's
CAO, I
okay.
usually go
Yeah.
through you to Director.
Director Phillips, would you please address council?
If there is any questions, council has any questions, so we've supplied the, quarter four for 2023 and then quarter one for, 2024. A lot of the quarter four, you will notice that the reserve transfers, so we are, doing our year-end adjusting entries, so that is, it does show a lot of a surplus there at the end of it, but any questions, I'm open to answer.
Have you recovered all the disaster recovery funds?
No, we haven't recovered everything. Our submission application is in with AMA for both, submissions. So one is the NWT, and then one is for Alberta assistance for Little Red River Cree Nation and area. So none of those funds have come in. I have done an update to AMA to just sit down and have a meeting with them because it does make up over $1 million for 2023, including our salaries, wages, etc. So they are very open to having conversations with us with the move forward processes to let us know where they are in their reviews. Like previous experience with them, they do have 3 reviews for our submissions. This one is a little different and not as extensive because we were a third party helping and assisting with evacuations, but I can definitely bring a update back to council in the next meeting.
They're probably really busy.
They had a lot of submissions, and it's not even NWT. AMA did take on a lot when it came to the surrounding area last year, so.
Does anybody else have any questions? That, I just have a question, sorry again. A net loss of 2 million in brackets, or is that surplus?
No, that's the surplus to do
Okay.
the reserve. Yes, all of the transfers haven't been done.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay, could I have someone move the report then? Deputy Mayor, all in favor? For the first quarter report. Is there any questions? None? Okay. Could I have someone move the first quarter report then? Councillor LeBrion, all in favor? Carried. Old business, the spring cleanup. That's not. Do I have the wrong one? Is there nothing in here for spring cleanup? Councillor Lambert.
So I'm not sure why there's nothing in the agenda for it, but I know last year we had budgeted, I think it was it $5,500? Do you know last year?
I apologize, I'm not aware, and I didn't know if anything was coming for that. It was just carried forward from the last committee of the whole.
Gotcha. So the year before that, I believe we budgeted $3,500, and then last year we upped the budget to $55 in order to cover $500 per zone for the cleanup. From what I understand, the chamber does have each one of those areas booked for cleanup.
Okay. So this was just an update, it wasn't a request?
Well, it was a request for the funds for the budget, but I seen in the budget it was only in there for $3,500 last year, but I'm pretty sure it was 55.
And I believe that was just, if council does need to add the extra 2,000, we can make that adjustment in the budget. It was only 3,500 for 2024. Yeah.
For this, yeah.
2023, it was 55?
Yes, yeah. And that was due to our the decision to zone out and do the donations of those different areas.
It wasn't a go forward. It was a single motion for that year only.
From my understanding, it wasn't. carried forward to 2024, but if it is council's decision, we can do that carry forward.
So just for reference here, last year we actually didn't sell all of the, or not sell, but we didn't use all of the funds. I think we only used maybe 2 or 3 of the, or cleaned up 2 or 3 of the zones. That's why this year we're a lot more proactive on getting them booked.
Okay.
So I think out of the 5,500, maybe 1,500 was used.
But it's all requested this year?
Yes.
Was there something in the committee of the whole?
Just to bring it up. I believe.
Oh,
Oh, but we were supposed to discuss tipping fees for the landfill, if we were going to open it up for a week or not. We were supposed to find out what the cost of that was for last year. We ended
who
up
was
up at,
gonna find it out?
I don't know.
When is
Next
Me.
week. Actually supposed to start on Saturday, the 27th to May the 4th.
So we don't have time to, we have to make a decision tonight.
Just wait. Do you recall anything in the notes about who was going to check with the landfill?
I think we were just going to look at what it cost last year.
Yeah,
So, Madam Mayor and Council, it was part of administration, so it was going to be previous CAO. I could send you guys, our breakdown from last year. So looking at everything we did for the cleanup, in 2023, it does look like we only did the two zone donations that we did for the chamber. So for our tipping fees for that week, if you just give me a minute, I can bring it back into the meeting. I just need to grab the numbers.
so council, are you fine with the 5,500 for this year for the zones? Seems none of it, they only used 1,500 last year. And they've pre-sold their zones? Deputy Mayor?
I think it's important to get the entire town done, so I guess it would be a carryover if we didn't use all the funds last year. I don't think we have to necessarily allocate anything extra this year. It would just be a carry forward from last year.
So is that your motion?
Yes.
So could you put in there the deputy mayor moves that council give the chamber 5,500 for their, how many zones?
11 zones.
11 zones?
Yep.
Of cleanup, spring cleanup?
And also that we would cover the cost of any tipping fees.
For leaving or so that people can go to the landfill for a week.
From April 27th to May 4th.
April 27th to May 4th. Moved by the deputy mayor. All in favor? Carried. I think we were gonna talk to H and
I think we were supposed to look in to see if they were including it last year or not.
okay, so an update on the town website. CAO.
Oh, I had a
Bill.
bill. Can you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is just an overview of what we're doing for the website refresh for this year. We're expected to have that done by the middle of June. And the background of this briefing note just kind of gives you an idea of what some of the process was that we've been doing so far.
Is there questions for? So there was a refresh in 2020 that we never did.
That's correct. We are entitled to a refresh every 4 years, but the last one wasn't done, so we were almost 8 years behind.
So 2024 is our refresh date. Is there any questions?
That was my only question.
Do you have one?
That was my only
Oh. Okay, I guess there's no questions. Thank you for the briefing note.
I do have one more thing that I would like to just mention very briefly on the discussion about the community assessment survey. So I've been part of that project. It's a community services project, but I've been part of it as part of promotion. Barring a discussion that we had on social media today, we were in the process of putting together some kind of plan to see how we could get people from outside of the region to be able to participate. Director Clark isn't here today, so we're not able to discuss it with her. But part of the issue is that in terms of the community services programming that is in the survey, of course, everybody uses that, but the other departments are also represented in there, and some of those are not, like if you're not a ratepayer, they don't really affect you directly. So like how we deal with roads, all of my questions around our communications policy, obviously my primary audience is the town of High Level itself. And we don't have a good way to tell, like we can't verify where people live, who's filling these out, that kind of thing. So our focus has kind of been doing it like in person as much as possible, and just having those discussions with people. Like all surveys, we just lack the ability to have like any kind of solid security, right? So anybody could really be filling them out from anywhere for any reason. Granted, it's a long survey, so and the way that we set it up, it's less likely to be attacked by bots, for example. It's not like a SurveyMonkey as a PDF fillable. We're not really worried about that too much. But yeah, like what we're kind of talking about was like presenting that information with like a caveat that here's what we were able to put together. But just be aware that we don't have the kind of security required to say like this person specifically lives here or this person lives somewhere else and they have an axe to grind and they filled it out with bad intentions or whatever. We have no way to filter that stuff. So, but we were gonna have that discussion tomorrow. I was obviously unprepared for it to be brought up at council tonight, so, yeah, that's all I wanted to mention about that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question on, or
Yeah,
just a
go ahead,
discussion on that.
Councillor Lambert.
So just something to think about, I guess, with the assessment, or not the assessment, sorry, the survey. There are a lot of people in the community that work here and own businesses here. So the survey may entail to them a little bit just because they do work here every day and they might only live 5 minutes out of town, but they're still considered a county resident. So just something to think about in regards to them still being a ratepayer as a business owner, right?
Thank you for the comment, Councillor Lambert. That definitely is something we've identified, and we've listed ratepayers as like anybody who owns a house or a business in town. Pretty much those are the people that we are most interested in hearing from because, like I mentioned, a lot of that stuff is going to be, it may inform where municipal taxes are being directed and stuff. So that's kind of where we're sitting with it.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lebrion.
Is there a way for us to put out a condensed version of the survey where we could just have the sort of the FCCSS programming and stuff that may affect people from the county, but leave out the stuff that's specifically for ratepayers?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lebrion. There definitely would be a way to do that. I really just have to speak to Director Clark and see what direction she wants to go with all this because, I mean, like I said, this all came up kind of today and we haven't had a chance to kind of go past our initial discussions, and we formulated a plan of attack and we were like, great, we'll talk to Jenna as soon as she gets in, so we'll be dealing with it tomorrow probably.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so 12:3, briefing note for the fire department.
Director Schmidt.
Thank you, CEO Leaf. Madam Mayor. So at the April 8th meeting, Council, after discussion with regards to an in-camera item with regards to the fire department response in March, we were asked to bring back options and a report regarding fire department staffing. With the timing of the budget passing tonight, we brought this report back to talk about some of the things that are happening and some recommendations for move forward for the department. It's no secret the fire department's been struggling with recruitment in the past year or so. There's been, we've discussed it with the council, but we're aware there's been a large decline in volunteer firefighters across the province or across the country, up to about 30%, and high levels not immune to that. You know, number of factors of that, training requirements of our volunteer members or paid-on-call members when they come in, other local pressures that have been happening within the community, and competitiveness with other volunteer groups facing similar challenges in town. So the department has done a lot of different initiatives with regards to recruitment. We have, the move to paid-on-call has increased the amount of members in terms of turnout after hours for you know, fire events and alarm calls and motor vehicle collisions and so on. We've done a recruitment push directly by members, just word of mouth, social media campaigns on the town website and the town Facebook page, newspaper articles stating we need volunteers, ads in the paper, even banners and deckling on vehicles looking for paid-on-call members. We have a QR code that goes direct to our recruitment page. All those things are in place, and it has only resulted in about 2 more recruits in the past 4 to 5 months. Those recruits are still undergoing training. They were actually gracious enough to take time off of their work, and they've been working through with our new seasonal staff this last 2 weeks, and they'll be completely response ready by the end of this week. So at least we have a couple more. Although we had a resignation today for one of our volunteers who, or sorry, yesterday, who because of you know, kids at home just unable to commit the time. So we gain 2 and lose 1, and that's kind of how things are operating with our paid-on-call members. On the provincial side, the province does nothing to assist with recruitment. So there's no incentives, there's no anything out there on provincially to assist other than you know, information from Alberta Fire Chiefs Association on recruitment, you know, just general information. Federally, the federal government just passed an increase to the volunteer firefighter recruitment program, or sorry, tax incentive, which moves it from about $350 to $700 basically in the pocket of a volunteer paid-on-call member, as long as they meet 200 hours of service. So that 200 hours of service is sometimes difficult to meet for some volunteer members, but they have to have that to meet that. Other options that council asked me to investigate, the town of Coaldale did a firefighter tax rebate program in 2020. It has had some success in Coaldale. They give a $2,000 a year tax break to businesses who let their firefighters respond to calls during their business hours. In some discussions, you know, looking at the demographics of our current paid-on-call volunteer firefighters, very few of them can leave work anyway. So we don't feel that you know, that really would be super effective. You know, one of our members are working in service industries where they can't leave, you know, a restaurant during the day, or they can't leave, they're working in healthcare or in the mills. That's the bulk of our paid-on-call members, and they just can't leave work while they're at work. And that's the reality that we have, especially with short staffing in many of our businesses in high level. The other part of Coaldale's incentive was a $1,000 tax break on residential tax bills to homeowners who volunteer to the fire department. My discussion was with Coaldale and discussion with other departments who've tried to implement that. It is difficult to manage, and it's not equitable for our volunteer firefighters who rent, which is a you know, a large percentage actually of our firefighters. So also that was brought up at the April 8th meeting was the medical co-response program and how that affects our recruitment. And it is the opinion of the department that while medical co-response does have a big impact on our call volume. The steps that we've taken in the last couple of years, where 90% of our medical calls are actually managed by our full-time staffing, has very little effect on our volunteerism. Conversely, we have been involved in medical co-response for well over 20 years as a community, and to reduce that service level to the community would have a great impact, especially considering the amount of times our EMS service times out and the amount of times we're now first responding to scenes and conducting treatment. So we don't feel that is a viable option, and we just feel that it'll negatively affect the community. You know, I put an example in the report here. You know, simply recoding our calls and saying we're not going to certain Delta events, you know, does have an impact, and a lot of that is just the way phone calls are made into 911, and the dispatchers code things based on the information they have at the time isn't always accurate. So that does result in a lot of calls where we go to responses where we're not needed, but it also results in calls where we go to responses that are undercoded. As an example, we had a couple weeks ago where we're 7 minutes ahead of the ambulance in a cardiac arrest call in the downtown core. And that was coded as a Delta for just a regular man down call. So the department as it stands is still, you know, from a paid on call perspective, we would need at least 10 more paid on call firefighters to be fully effective. That being said, if we had 10 applications tomorrow, it takes about 6 to 8 months to get them now response ready, completely after we go through applications, interviews, and then their training, unless they're able to commit a couple of weeks of direct training. So really, administration feels to get us through the crux of this right now is looking at staffing options. So there is a couple of options with that. The work experience program that we currently have with the 4 seasonals, those members are essentially response ready now. We're just tying up their training this week. We could extend them to a full year-round program and just rotate them every year. While that does extend the current staffing to a longer period, it really doesn't remedy the situation that we face in the summertime, where the WUI team, as we discussed, are gone more and more. They've been gone every weekend now, with the exception of one since March 1st, out teaching. That is their requirement under their provincial program. And now that wildfire season has started to heat up, we're expecting deployment requests to come in. And as they're provincially funded, we're not supposed to turn those down. So, so that does leave, you know, the 4 seasonals that we have with the current paid on call staff and myself and the deputy chief. But our paid on our work experience program members, we're planning on splitting those 4 into 2 shifts. So we have basically 7-day-a-week coverage during the day, but 2 on at a time with the duty officer and our other 1 full-time staff member. So, it does provide some additional revenue due to employments that offset the cost of service delivery. So there is some offsets to the cost of that program. But again, the extending this to a 1-year program does allow for more staffing in the winter. It really doesn't solve the summer issue. The other option, which arguably is a more expensive option, but it is the option that administration is recommending, is adding some additional full-time staffing. So the cost, which is already reflected in the draft budget for 2024, is $150,000 for 2024 and $300,000 in 2025, not including the revenue offsets that I'll discuss in a second. So the additional 3 more staff, which would include 1 supervisor, would basically provide year-round coverage and mirror the WUI team. So in the winter, that it gives them adequate rest time. They work 4 days on and 4 days off on 12-hour shifts. And then nighttime is when they're either on call or we have our paid on calls filling in those gaps. And then obviously when a structure fire or another fire occurs, the same occurs now where everybody goes. And that gives us the surge capacity that we would need. It also allows the WUI team to fully meet their provincial commitments, because if we had an additional 4 staff mirroring that team, when the WUI team is tired like they were last year, we're able to put them on call and high level and then flip the other team out as a WUI response because we would train them to the same standard. So it allows us to keep our commitment up, but also allows that revenue stream back into the community. So some of the additional benefits to that option, the fire underwriter survey that we've discussed with council back in December, that would go great lengths to getting us to achieve those additional grades in insurance grading for the community, which would eventually result in some insurance savings. I do need to correct my report on this. While I said it was approximately $375,000 a year in residential assurance, it's actually more on the commercial industrial side where we'll see the savings. I finally got a call back from Fire Underwriter Survey this afternoon, and they said where we would see the insurance savings on the residential side would be 2 to 5%. It would be far greater on the commercial industrial side. So while that doesn't have a direct effect on the town's budget, overall in the community, you start seeing some cost savings. So it's minor on the residential, but it's more pronounced on the commercial and industrial. I already kind of discussed revenue generation. On the WUI side, it does allow us to keep up with our deployments where, you know, a single 14-day deployment usually brings in about $100,000 in revenue to the town. But the fire department also turned down over $70,000 in training requests last year based on our training fees, which would essentially pay for almost one of those 3 positions. And we just turned it down because we had no capacity. So having those full-time people in the station, especially one as a trainer, gives us some more flexibility to provide that contract training. Our training that's happening with the Dene right now, as an example, they've already verbally asked if we could do more training for them on a contract basis because they need to get their services up and running. So we're already having those discussions. Finally, inspection frequencies, 2 of the things that we're missing in regards to the Fire Underwriter Survey to be successful in the public fire protection classification is more regular inspections and pre-fire planning. So this would give us the staffing to be able to accomplish that in a more efficient manner because during the day they would, you know, be out in the community doing those inspections and pre-fire plans in key businesses. So we already have that planning done ahead of time. Duty officer rotation. Currently during wildfire season, it's myself and our deputy chief that rotate 1 week on, 1 week off on duty officer. This would give us a 3rd supervisor to do that rotation when the WUI team's busy, because right now we only have that 3rd officer to do a duty officer rotation when the WUI team's not busy. The last 2 pieces go hand in hand. So this option with the additional crew gives us 7 days a week daytime coverage. So the response time out of the station, expected response time out of the station from page out is 90 seconds. So 12 hours a day, you have a very much more increased response time by the first initial crew. So what that does is if it allows us to achieve the 10-minute response time as outlined in the Alberta Building Code 90% of the time, which we're currently at 50%, which we feel we could achieve with the staffing, that actually relaxes building codes. So that allows for different construction methods within housing. As an example, we got a request from the school division just 2 weeks ago asking us to give them a response letter guaranteeing 10-minute response time within the 90th percentile, and we said no, and they've had to go back to the drawing board for their school division development because they were actually basing it because they thought we were able to achieve the 10-minute response time. Our current average is 11.4. So that's while it is a more expensive option, we look at it as more of an investment in terms of community safety. There's no doubt that paid on-call firefighters are always going to be a part of our service, and that's never going to change. There's no way we could do 24-hour-a-day coverage. We would have to double the staffing that we're proposing, and that's just not in the cards. But we are in a unique position as a community that has that program that does provide a revenue stream to offset those costs, as well as with our other abilities to do training in the region. We feel that we can do this fairly efficiently within the town budget. And that's my report.
Questions? Deputy Mayor.
So what do you think the possibilities are that these 3 additional paid firefighters would just come from the volunteers? Which would just leave us at the same number?
Very low. All of our volunteer firefighters currently have other careers that I don't think they're really looking at that option. So I don't feel that that's really a play right now. Like, I don't think that's an issue.
And then if we continued the work experience program, that actually has 4 people here on a yearly basis, right?
So yes, so if we continue the work experience, yeah, that would leave us 4, year round. So we would rotate them on a 1-year contract, right? So we're paying them, a much lower wage as work experience students. Again, it doesn't allow the extra surge capacity in the summer. So that's why we say it's not the best option. One of the other options, I guess, for council to digest, which I didn't put in the report, was you could have more work experience students during the summer, and then, you could do it that way as well. But then we're continually rotating, so we don't have that experience level, which is one of the downsides of that.
So why can't we offer, like, I like the Coaldale model. I think we do need volunteers. We can't continuously grow this department. We are already at $1.4 million operating. We can't continue to put more people into this department. If the WUI team goes, there's 4 people, they're here till the 2025. If those other 3 people are tied to them, that's 7 people.
No, I guess maybe I misexplained that, Madam Mayor. So we wouldn't send them away as well as the WUI team. So so it's not to have more capacity to send more people out of town.
No. You said tie it to the WUI team, like if the WUI team goes, then those people go.
No, that's not what I meant. So having those extra people here, that if the WUI team comes back from a deployment and they're asked to redeploy again, then we can flip the other team out and leave the other WUI team here so we have coverage. So we would never send them both at the same time. That, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, if the WUI team, if the province says you're done, 2025,
Correct.
you said that team would be here to offset the WUI team, right? In your report? Let him explain.
No, that's, so the tie to the WUI program, and why I guess I did not explain that, I apologize. So why I've put in the resolution to tie it to the WUI program funding is because if we ever lose the WUI program funding, then we would have to have, obviously, a complete revisit of our staffing model, because then it's not sustainable.
I'd like to revisit our staffing model right now and really call for volunteers. I do like the incentives that Coaldale offers. We've never offered our firefighters, and you say that the people, it wouldn't help the people that are here. Well, it might help people that own houses that want to come out. Same with the fire chiefs wanted 10,000 from the federal government. They got 6. Why can't the Alberta fire chiefs lobby our Alberta government for 4,000 to reach that 10,000? Like, I mean, there's options here instead of throwing more and more to get more paid people.
I understand that, and don't get me wrong, that's not the aim. We will always have a paid-on-call volunteer service.
I'm talking.
The reality is, it's not sustainable. We have 0 response during the day right now, like maybe one
but that's
person.
because the WUI team was here. We used to have people in our town office that were allowed to go during the day.
Correct, and that was the only people that responded were town staff.
Yeah.
So unless we hire more people who work at the town that can respond during the day, that's still not correcting the problem.
Okay, so how much do you get for the WUI team? 500,000?
Correct.
Did they use every cent of that?
Yes, they do. That budget is pretty set with the province.
I still think that we need volunteers and we need to
100% agree.
offer incentives. And I get that we don't have any volunteers. this WUI team was not supposed to cost us any money, but it's now gonna cost us money because we can't get volunteers. That's the problem that I have. And now, so now we're you talk about offsetting the budget with the money they bring in, but we never talk expenses. Like, we put brush trucks out there and the tenders and all those things. So what are the expenses? Those are things that were supposed to be provided to us. And we've been providing them ourselves.
I'm not understanding your comment about that they were supposed to provide it.
Well,
'cause that
that's
was never
your
in the-
first,
in the deal.
when you first told us about the WUI team and the province doing it, they were gonna supply the trucks.
In 2016, correct.
Yes.
That was changed by the time the WUI program got bid out
I
in
understand
2019.
that, but I just, yeah, like, I think, okay, we need a couple people, so we hire a couple this year. But I think they go away in the fall, because we just can't afford it, Rodney. Like, it's getting more expensive every year. That's my personal feelings. I think there's ways that we can attract people. And we haven't tried those options. So, and do they get those $6,000 because they're paid on call, or do you have to be a volunteer?
No, so they would qualify for paid on call. We're confirming that with the new rollout with the federal government. They do qualify for that subsidy as long as they volunteer 200 hours a year. So that's the requirement. It's not $6,000 in their pocket, $6,000 tax credit. So it results in about, $700 back.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other, I guess I better shut up. Who is first? Counselor Anderson, I'll stop at the end.
Okay, so as I understand it, these 3 additional people would roll out. So if the WUI team comes back after 2 weeks and they're timed out, and we're given another call-out notice, these other 3 people would go out in their place?
Correct, and then we have the WUI team on call here. So
So-
we basically could flip them. It's an option, right?
Right. Okay, so I don't see that as an option, because now we're basically supplying 7 staff members to commit to the WUI team on a $500,000 budget. And I realize that it's a flip around and a rotate, but now the town is having to pay full-time for 3 more staff. And I really do believe that we need to look seriously at all other options before we start looking at paying for more full-time staff.
So I don't disagree, and just to clarify, so how that billing would work. So if that scenario did come to play, then the province pays for that staffing, because that staffing is billed out. So while I agree they're not being paid for while they're sitting in station, they're being paid for while they're responding to those events. I'm not saying that that's going to happen every time in terms of like a continuous deployment. That's not our reason for asking for the staffing. The reason we're asking for it is while they're gone, we don't have enough people here to cover. So if we were in a position like we were last year where our team was out, they come home, they rest, they go back out, they're to the point of exhaustion, we have the ability to say, okay, you're staying here, you're on call, we'll take these other 4 and send them out, and we still have the same number of staffing here and the same number out, and then that staffing is being covered by provincial revenues because we bill on top while those staffing is out. We also bill for our apparatus, we bill for our trailer, so there's revenue on top. That's the revenue stream that we received in last year that resulted in the department having a $500,000 surplus after we paid for all of the department operations last year. So that's what I'm trying to get council to understand, that there is offsets, and I understand the need to recruit more volunteer firefighters, but we're really having a tough time doing that. So I don't know what other options are there. We can do incentives, but it doesn't fix the problem right now.
So, I'll just to continue with my question now. So we hire these 3 full-time firefighters. So what's the training then that we have to pay as the town, to get them up to the standards of the WUI team? What's the cost to the town then for that? Because that would not be covered by the provincial government, because the provincial government's already trained their 4 people.
The people we would hire would already be qualified to their NFPA standards. The wildland training we do in-house, we already work with Alberta Wildfire in terms of training wildfire requirements. So we don't feel that that would be a major issue. But as an example, one of our students that we hired right now already has those wildfire qualifications. So, you know, there are people out there that already have those qualifications, and those would be the people we seek. In terms of the only other qualification that they require was the WUI members course, which is taught by our team. So there's no cost to that, because they would be taught that while they're here. So there's not a big cost in training those people, other than their wages that we'd be paying them during the day.
I would like to see some numbers put to that.
Okay.
Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat here with Councillor Anderson and the mayor. You know, I think we need to exercise all of our options here before we go to this. And I think Councillor Justman is the one who said it before, is we keep throwing money at this, and, you know, every year it's another ask, another ask. I mean, last fall we provided 1 new full-time member, someone that was a part of the student program last year. So that's 5 full-time, including the WUI team, and then plus another one with the deputy chief. And then we went from 2 summer students this year to 4. So now we have, what's that, 10 people full-time? I think that's, you know, it's definitely, you know, you mentioned the other things too about having full-time staff, or sorry, during the day. I said 90% of their calls are, I think they're taking most of the calls during the day, and then you're not getting any response from any of the volunteers. Well, I think if you have full-time staff there, you're not going to get response from the volunteers, because they know that there's someone there, they're getting paid for it. And I, you know, that was a problem that's always been happening even before. Even when I was on the department, that was an issue, because you'd have people from the town responding. You know, people used to think, okay, well then I'm not going to respond because I know there's people going already. You know, I'm not sure what the solution to that would be, but I don't think adding more staff is going to contribute to more volunteers giving up their time to come out. It's, if anything, it'll discourage them from coming. As for one other thing I had brought up too, with the, you know, the rates and all that stuff on insurance rates, I think that is definitely something for us to consider, considering that if it's only commercial businesses that are commercial, I guess, properties that are going to be affected by, you know, it's the residents that at the end of the day are the one who help us make the decisions here. So something to consider, I think.
Councillor Welke.
What type of confirmation do we have that the tax break incentive for businesses just wouldn't work in this community?
We don't really have a confirmation. I guess the experience that we have right now is that we only have, so we have 13 or 14 paid on call members right now. And even in the past, when we had more paid on call members, very few of them ever could leave work. So currently right now, out of the 14 we have, only 1 can leave work, and it's only during a major fire, right? So it may, like, it's on what we call a second page out, all call for members.
Has there been any engagement though with the business community on that?
Not directly, no.
I'm gonna just speak on behalf of myself as a business owner. It just kind of gave me some thoughts on a different method of recruitment, and I know perhaps 2 of my employees would be interested in this. Traditionally, being a member of a volunteer fire department in a community, I think is like a huge source of pride and commitment to the community. And actually a lot of people would really enjoy doing it. And I, as a business owner, especially if there was a tax break, would also be incentivized to encourage my own employees to participate in this, because it also, if you talk to business owners, we're looking for retention of our own employees. And if they get engaged in the community, that's almost a sure way that they may stick around. And being a member of the fire department, I think has always been like a pinnacle of organizations to be involved with, you know, if you want to really give back to your community. So perhaps, you know, talking with the chamber and even like myself, I would be willing to look at how I as a business owner could help in the process of bringing volunteers in, because it would also benefit me, not only just the tax break, but it would benefit me too. And you know, I guess you'd have to be in a business where you can let people go. But if we look at it as these employees may stick around and actually really enjoy themselves here, if they're a member of something, then that helps the business community out too. So that's just another way of looking at it. I already know, yeah, like 2 or 3 people that work for me that I could approach it in that method as a business owner that might be successful. So I agree. I can't quite endorse the okaying of the new 3 new fully paid members. I'd like to explore the, you know, the like better recruitment processes for the paid on call volunteers.
Councillor Jessamine.
Thank you. I'm not going to go into what has been already talked about. Just a few comments I would like to make. Running a fire service for a community is not easy. It's difficult, and there's many, many challenges out there. And so, you know, when we were presented this, I did a little bit of research, and I know the mayor back earlier on did the same. And it's, you know, you hear and see the same across the province in little communities and stuff like that. But if we were to go down this road, I think we would be the only smaller community in the province with this many full-time firefighters, which would be very difficult. Just a few comments. You know, with these increased people, you know, there's an increased needs for them, whether it's housing needs, like whether it's transportation needs, whether it's equipment needs. And so we don't see those, you know, I think you'd have to do a more in-depth review of that. And it just, there's bigger and bigger demands on the overall department. You know, I say this all the time, we're just getting bigger and bigger, and it just increases tenfold all across the department. Like I say, from equipment to vehicles to office space to fire department space, and we end up having to rent space to store stuff in the wintertime and stuff like that. So those are all additional costs that we don't get returns on, that we don't see, but can add up and or could be quite scary. I think the other thing is we have to look at the options to entice more people in a more robust way. Other than, you know, looking at what isn't working in other areas, maybe look at what works for here and look at it in a bigger multitask. You know, I really like the idea of giving the incentive a tax break on people's taxes. And I get it, this creates its own challenge, more work that you have to track that. You have to track their volunteer hours and all that. But again, going back to building a more robust incentive options, like what Jan is saying, look at them all and include it in one bigger option to the town for business owners to volunteers, and come back with something like that. But those are just comments I have to make. It's very difficult for me to support this. Again, it's difficult running a department. We see the challenges growing year after year after year with all that's going on in our world. But, you know, I keep going back to the province has to step up and start kicking more into smaller communities and what we do for emergency services. And the more we give, the less they have to do that. So, you know, there comes a point when, you know, enough's enough for me, and I think we're at that point for me right now. That's all.
Counselor LeBryon.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I feel the same way as the mayor, and I agree very strongly with what Jan was saying. I would like to see us exhaust these tax incentives to the fullest before we start going any further down this road. I think that with the proper incentives, we could at least get some more involvement from our local volunteers. So I would like to see that tried first. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
So I think council's message is kind of clear, but even these suggested changes aren't going to happen overnight, and we need some immediate relief. So I'd be prepared to move alternative number 2, that we extend the casual program on a one-time basis for a year to allow the department to investigate, to offer some of these other incentives, so that going into next year that we would have maybe another avenue to attack. My big concern was, like my first question, that we add these 3 positions and then 3 volunteers, and we're in no better shape than we are right now. So it's a temporary measure. It would be on a 1-year basis, and allow administration time to come back with some other options and investigate the things we've been talking about.
This is called choking. My first opportunity. To the deputy mayor's point, a lot of what you've been talking about and the comments I'm going to make are based on about a 45 to 60-minute conversation that Director Schmidt and I had this afternoon. So I'm drawing on a lot of other experience that I've had outside of high level. One of the concerns I had with regard to how this was presented tonight was that you're missing, or the policy discussions that I believe the council needs to have are absent from this. One of the examples that I used when I talked with Rodney was I said, you're assuming that council's supportive of the 10-minute, or sorry, what was it, 10-minute? 90% of the time. Council's not obligated to do that. As he alluded to, there are consequences that come in terms of building code, spatial separations. Now you're into what's your land use bylaw going to look like. This is not an uncomplicated situation. Do you really want to, when you talk about WUI, this is really a provincial system that, because of where high level is located geographically, makes sense. But high level doesn't have that much of a WUI risk anymore that warrants the investment that you've got. But you're in a partnership with the province right now where you've committed to doing this, and we're 2 months now into the fire season, the provincial fire season. So the reason I'm framing it that way is I really believe that there's 2 questions in front of council. The first one is, how are you going to address the fire season that's going to take us through until the end of October? You're not committed to doing that, but if the deputy mayor's motion fails, there's some very quick communication that needs to occur with the province with regard to the capacity, because I believe a number of councillors talked about your first and foremost responsibility as a council is to the residents and businesses within your corporate limits. Some of what you're engaging in are expenses that are being borne outside of that. And to the comment about, and the province needs to ante up, the province has needed to ante up in emergency services for over 25 years. You're into medical first response. You're not obligated to do that. Let me qualify that for the lawyer in the room. Because you have historically been providing that service, to step back from that service is probably a 6-month community awareness. There's going to be legal opinions on what's the best way to go about that. So there are service level changes that you can implement, but at best you're going to be talking about January 1 of 2025. You have the question, which I think is appropriately placed, which is you don't have the volunteers in place. It takes 3 to 6 months for you to get one volunteer to the place where you can put bunker gear on them and actively have them fighting, other than being a hose monkey, which is what I was. So there are a number of conversations that council needs to have and administration needs to have that we can bring back. But the question before you tonight, as you're considering the budget, is are you prepared to augment the service that your fire chief is telling you these are the resources he needs given his current manpower and resourcing?
So the deputy mayor has a motion on the table, and we are in a position where we do need people, and exactly what you have said is all true. And and our obligation is to high level, and that's first and foremost in my mind. And if adding 3 people helps us protect high level, then I'm for it, for this 6-month period.
And my comment is the system that you're currently funding and that you're being asked to fund is providing service to the broader community. Now, you've got mutual aid agreements and all those other sorts of things. That's what I'm saying. This is not uncomplicated and you're not going to address it. And we could, when's the Oilers game done? You know, we could probably spend another 2-3 hours. There's a point in time where we're going to be just dealing and asking council administratively, we'll be providing you with conjecture. That's not a good basis for council to make a decision. So my recommendation is, and I'm not saying to support or not to support the deputy mayor's motion, but following that, I think that I would recommend that council direct administration to come back, because you're not committed to the medical services. You're not committed to that you can review some of your mutual aid. But this becomes a far bigger discussion than whether you're going to fund 3 positions or not. But it does allow you to have the conversation is, what are the emergency services that council wish to see occur within your the town, or is it within the response area of your fire department, your medical services? Again, we can broaden this conversation considerably beyond the options that are before you this evening.
Do you want to make a friendly amendment?
The 3 positions, it's extending the casuals for 1 year, just to get us through this, so.
That's alternative 2.
Alternative 2.
Is there any discussions on extending, what is that, 150 or 140? 80. Councillor Lambert?
Just something to consider with extending the position. Doesn't affect or do anything over the summer.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like what I'm saying is that over the summer is what we're all of a sudden talking about now, we're worried about. If we extend the summer students to a year, it doesn't affect what's happening this summer. That the staffing level still stays the same. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. Because then we have 3 additional people here in the wintertime to do.
So are you saying we should hire 3 additional people?
No, I think
to
we should
come?
exercise all our options like we've talked about.
If I could ask Director Schmidt, based on as you understand the motion, what will you be able to do in terms of response?
I mean, I guess that's a tough question because a lot of it depends on the turnout of our current paid on calls. So on, you know, we still have never missed a call, and I can't say that we ever will not miss a call, but you know, at this point, we're holding the line with the staffing that we have right now. I mean, so, you know, CAO is correct. I mean, we're committed to the provincial program until March of 2026. That's the agreement we signed, and that funding is there. And again, that brings in revenue to offset these other programs. But in terms of what can we respond to right now, I guess it depends on the day. You know, during the day, we currently have 1 or 2 members turn out, and they make an effort if it's something major. Because right now we only page calls when we need during the day, when we need our paid on calls to respond. We don't page anything else because we don't want to, like, we're trying to reduce the burden on them to hopefully increase the ability to respond while you know, so they know when it's paged, they're needed. So yeah, in terms of response, I guess it's a hard question to answer. What can we respond to now? We're currently managing our contracts, but we're managing our response to the community. But we're one multiple event call day where we have multiple calls going at the same time. That's where we definitely run into trouble. Or when we have a structure fire where we need, you know, more than 2 crews. We had a structure fire this weekend. We filled 2 full trucks. So, you know, we do have good turnouts when we need it, but it's not all guaranteed.
So you're training the Denny Law Fire Department right now?
Correct.
So how long would that take to train with them?
My discussions with Mr. Bolio today that they're a year from full response. But they have asked us to assist them in accelerating their training. But I don't have the capacity to do that fully without committee and staff.
Well, we're in a pickle then. Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
So, so if we receive new volunteers at our own department today, the general thought is 6 months, they're fully ready. With the Dene firefighters receiving some training, and what makes it a year for them to be ready versus if you had your own volunteers here?
So the difference is they're establishing a fire department. So they have a lot of other things to do besides just train their volunteers, right? They have no dispatch system. They have no SOPs in place. They just got their gear. They're still recruiting people. So, you know, I'm actually pretty happy we're working very closely with Mr. Bolio now, and I think that's definitely a benefit. And we had some good discussions this weekend about, you know, the ability to back each other up when they get to this point. But, you know, the reality is they need to get themselves organized first. And I think with assistance, we might be able to accelerate that. But
could they?
But that was his estimate. That's what he told me, was that they figured they would be ready by this time next year, is kind of what the discussion was this weekend.
So would there not be some sort of mechanism for them to fully sign on with our department, knowing that they'll get their training faster and be ready to integrate into their own faster as well? Like, these are individuals that are already interested. I mean, besides perhaps the barriers that we've seen in the past with, you know, them, you know, very committed to their, you know, their independent department, which I'm not discrediting that at all, and I'm all for it. But it seems like there should be a way to help us and them, even in terms of getting them, their firefighters, up to, you know, fully established training, which would also help them in their own departments quicker.
Absolutely,
There should be a mechanism there to actually fully be engaged with our department.
It's probably a bigger discussion with, you know, the Dene administration, but
right. But with the I guess the renewed cooperation, this is yet then another example of looking at all options to get the numbers up. And then at the same time, you know, we will be exploring our other in-town recruitment strategies to get even more. But I think, like, that would be a nice pool of candidates to be available to this department faster too, and then also to their own.
I agree with you. If we could get them into our department, train them to run their own department while training to help the town and their community out at the same time, would be a win-win for us all.
And that might actually help also with the services agreement. I'm just thinking because of the renewed cooperation, I mean, this is a very, very good thing, so.
No, it's been a great, I mean, we had an excellent weekend with them.
Yeah.
The two departments together. And we had members from Meander River and Chate as well, but the majority of them were from Bushy River, and you know, the two departments or the two groups clicked very well, and yeah, it was
Like, especially the Bushy members, right? Like, that's who we would be looking at as, you know, immediate beneficial members to this department too, so. Food for thought.
Counselor Jessamine.
Just a question of clarity on the agreement with the province. So yes, they've extended the program, but we're not signed. When do we sign on to this new extension?
that was signed.
We so-
Yeah, so that was signed by CAO McCaskill like 2 months ago when they
Is that
sent it in.
presented to us, or?
I don't know if it was.
I don't think so.
I can look into that.
Yeah, no,
And
It was administratively extended, but by the CAO, but it was reported at council at the very next meeting.
yeah, it was reported that we got an extension, but there was no comment about our signing into the agreement. And I mean, one of the frustrations, and again, since we brought the WUI team on, there's been complexities and the additions, increases, and you know, it's a good program, but you know, comes a point again if you know, causes too much. I mean, are we able to continue on with the program? Get back to the basics and protect our community and deal with our community. I mean, I'm not saying that's happened, but we always said that, you know, it was a great program. But since we've brought it into the fold, there's been this increased difficulty and drain on our overall firefighting program. So that's my frustration. Again, it's a great program, but since we've taken it on, there's been a lot more headaches for the community and a lot more increase in demands for resources and personnel.
Counselor Anderson.
So, as per se, the WUI team, we're committed. We have 4 individuals that are committed and signed up as WUI team members. Not 8, 4.
Correct.
So there is nothing in that agreement that says the town of High Level, if they come back and they're tuckered out and are asked to redeploy, that the town of High Level has to supply 4 different members to take their places. So because they're here and they're tuckered out doesn't mean that they're of any value to the town if there's a fire, because they may be incapacitated. So the province, if they want more WUI people to address that system, should be hiring and committing more money to those people. Not asking the town of High Level to commit more members to give the WUI team a rest. And by doing that, we have 4 members then that are here all the time. We've paid it for the summer. They're paid to look after the town of High Level and our contracts.
Correct. So
the other thing that I would like to see is the policies of the fire department brought back to council at a committee of the whole meeting or whatever it may be, so that council can address the policies that are in place now and our different fire agreements that we have, to see whether the service that we're asked to provide is what we really need to provide. Because maybe we're providing services that we cannot afford to do, and the budget has just ballooned to do it without any consultation or council knowing what they're agreeing to.
So we can definitely bring the policies back, Councillor. To clarify, to clarify that the requirements of the WUI program, we are to supply 4 people. That's what the agreement says. If we are 100% exhausted and we went to the province and said we're done for a couple of weeks because we need to rest people, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't argue that. I mean, we did rest them for a period of time in last year, just because they were kind of beyond the point. And maybe I'm not making myself clear in terms of the purpose of this is not to provide 4 more people for the WUI program. Why I brought the WUI team into the discussion was that if we had to continue to provide service, then we still have these people here. And I agree, maybe they would be tuckered out, but the incidents of structure fires here are far and few between in comparison to what the deployment requests are. So, you know, the chances of being so exhausted they couldn't respond to a single fire would be minimal. But going back to the, you know, that the province is requesting us to add more resources, they are not. That is not, that we've not requested, province has not come back to us and said, give us 4 more people so we can keep deploying them. That has not happened. This was a recommendation based on the concerns brought to me by council to say, how can we immediately fix this? We can immediately fix it with staffing, and that's why I brought that back. I know it's not the easy decision and the popular decision. The reality is, yes, that is a further drain on the budget. But the other reality is, in the last 5 years, the most this fire department has cost this council or the town has been $385,000 for 7 full-time staff. So the costing, in terms of the net cost to the community, we're probably the most cost-effective department in the province. Last year, the province or the department made the town $500,000. It cost the citizens $0. So, so in terms of the budget, yes, we have expanded our equipment. Yes, we've expanded our services, but the financial drain on the community is not there. In fact, it's supporting operations. And medical program is supporting operations to the point that we brought in $55,000 in grants last year to help cover those operations. So I just want to correct the information that it's not a drain on the budget. In the past 5 years, 2 of those years, we have been in the black in terms of the fire department budget. So it's not a drain on the resources. It's a drain on people, absolutely, but it's not a drain on the budget.
I don't think council said it was a drain on the budget. They said it was ballooning the budget. And yes, you did bring in money, and that money went to buying a water tender as well. So you have to offset costs with
Correct.
revenue. So, I mean, we do put in a lot of capital, and, you know, just putting, I don't want to say just, but putting $500,000 into the budget does not offset an $800,000 fire truck. So this community puts in a lot of money that way. And I understand, we all understand the problems the fire department is going through. But we would really like to be able to try to get volunteers in our community first and
100%
foremost.
agree.
So we do have a motion on the table. We do have a lot of conversation here. Perhaps we first vote on that motion. And then we direct administration to look at all the options that council has brought forward, such as the, well, let's vote on the,
Well, can I ask a question?
you're like a bad boy in class. Go ahead. Councillor Welke.
So just to clarify, because we had 2 comments, so adding $80,000 to the budget is obviously adding $80,000 to get us through the summer, but then there was also other comments that extra $80,000 isn't going to change a thing for getting through the summer. So what's the, please clarify that for me.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is the $80,000 is gonna get us through to next summer. So it might not make a change over the summer. It's gonna make a change over the coming winter while we try and identify the issues that we're all aware of and allow administration time to address those. So we would have 4 additional full-time staff through the winter. They're gonna be here for the summer anyway.
It would extend them because their contract ends at the end of the fire season?
End of August.
End of August, okay.
So this would extend them.
And fire season actually goes to when? December now?
Right through the winter.
So
Okay.
it would do some of that shoulder season, but, you know, we had some issues this winter with responding and fires, and so this would identify or address that. Because administration isn't gonna solve this overnight.
No.
We need to allow them time. If we're gonna bring in, tax advantages or breaks, you know, we have to communicate that to the business owners, to the volunteers, and that's gonna take some amount of time. And we've missed the opportunity to do that for this year anyway, so we'd be talking about the 2025 budget to do that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
So your motion is to extend it till,
$80,000 to make it for a full year.
to extend the
on a
80,000
one-time basis.
on a one-time basis. So, any other discussion? All in favor? I can live with that. Well, let me say those opposed. Carried. All right. So,
If I may, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, so I've got that we're gonna, administratively, we're going to come back with a policy framework. And there are going to be a number of policies that we're gonna be bringing back. I've also heard council express frustration with regard to, let's call it, the conditions that you entered into the WUI contract with, and those have subsequently changed, and you're now questioning your ability to continue. I think there would be value in us communicating, and I'm not sure whether it's Emergency Management Alberta, Fire Commissioner's Office, like, we'll come up with, if you want to call it, a lobby strategy that's going to occur at the administrative level, but also with council, or council to mayor's deputy, or sorry, ministers, deputy ministers, et cetera. The other point that I'd like some clarity on is I heard some requests that administration reach out to the Denethah. My experience, again, with the First Nations that I'm familiar with, is the programs that we've explored have been the most effective when we're working from the administrative level up, and council's working with the chief and band council down, and we hit the band manager or the powers that be. Does that make sense? And again, I'm just interested to know the relationship that this council has with the band council administration. It sounds like fire chief to fire chief is great, but where's the band manager?
he's new.
Okay. No history then, so, yeah.
He's acting, so, yeah, council has a good relationship with council. It's difficult to schedule meetings, of course, because they're running a nation and we're running a town, and I would say probably the best would be for three of us maybe to meet with the chief and two of their counselors. Maybe Terry and I, Jan, or Josh, want to meet with the chief
And we can work on the details. I just wanted to suggest that as part of what is administration in the
I
process
guess
of working.
you're working with these guys to do the fire agreement, so.
Okay.
So maybe you and Rodney and Terry work on administration?
Absolutely.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Just one of the comments the CEO made, before we reach out to the province about the WUI program, I just think there should be a fuller discussion in council before we interfere with that relationship. Sure, it may have caused some challenges within the department, but I think overall it's been a bonus for the town, and I would hate for us to communicate the wrong message until we've had a full discussion.
And he's absolutely right. I'm not gonna dispute the fact that the WUI team has been good for this region, this town. The WUI teams all over have been good, but yeah, we need to have that conversation with the province. We need to look at the contract.
Well, and we can also explore with, I'm sure that the challenges that council spoke about tonight are not unique to just this WUI community. So there are one other.
It's sort of like the RPAC teams, like they send one team, but you need two.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I may, I can give you a bit of an update as well. So like with regards to that discussion, if you would like us to, you know, after we have that general discussion, but I'm also pretty confident that the operations manager from AEMA would be happy to have a discussion directly with council because they're the program manager. So we have an excellent relationship with Bob, and I don't think there will be a problem with him coming up and discussing that one-on-one with council. And then there is already an effort going on. In fact, just today, there was messages sent to the ministers of public safety and wildfire through the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association about the need to expand the WUI program funding to add teams because of the effectiveness of the teams is good, but the take-home message to the province this year is that there's not enough of them, and that's adding to the fatigue factor and all the other issues that we've talked about tonight. So, you know, that's something to consider for council down the road, is to assist on that discussion when we bring it. But we can certainly, if that's council's wish, we can ask AEMA and them to come to the table to discuss the program directly with you if that's a wish.
Council, do you want to talk to AMA?
Sure.
I'd love to see Bob again.
I'm sure he'd be thrilled to come back up. As long as the place is not on fire, I think is usually the message that he said.
All right. Long discussion.
Thank you for the discussion.
If council's concluded this, it's been drawn to my attention. I require a motion with regard to item 12.2. Council did not accept that for information, so if we could ask for that motion, please.
Oh, I thought there was just a briefing note.
Request for decision.
The website?
Oh.
Oh, 12.2 is the website.
It was a briefing note because it was brought forward from Committee of the Whole. If council wishes, they can just leave it like that, but I thought perhaps they wanted to accept it for information.
Okay. Councillor Lebrion moves it. All in favor? Carried. All right. On to 12.4, fees.
Director Phillips, I'm sorry.
We could change that if you want.
No, we can't.
Well, okay. We'll get you on board, CAO. Administration has, every year it is council's decision to set service user and service fees. There are some schedules that have more major changes than normal. Director Clark is not here, but her additions and changes in schedules D and E and F for community services, I did list in the briefing note the major changes. So they've added a super senior age group, 75 years plus, and with that, no fees are associated. This is just an age group that we don't have allocated in our fees, and then also a monthly fee option when it comes to our aquatic center. And the major change with the sports complex in Schedule E, which is our times and also the fees associated with those times. So she did give me the comparables that our facilities and our fees and rates are below a lot of our comparable municipalities, Peace River, Fairview, Fox Creek, Valley View. We are lower than even average with all of these public skate, arena time, ice rentals, hall rentals, arena pad rentals. So they did make the changes based on those communications and those comparables. If there's any further questions, I can definitely bring that back to Director Clark and she can reach out to council via the municipal clerk CAO. but if there was anything specific, she did give me notes for that. And I also asked our airport manager, Lou Colatorti, to be at the meeting just to discuss the changes with Schedule B for the airport. So we haven't changed any of our airport fees in a very long time. Luke did go through everything and make his, I guess I will let Luke speak for himself, but this would be the, on the administrative side, after the, after council does approve any fees, administration would have to make changes in our system and then also do that public engagement and reach out to our vendors and any of the leaseholders on these changes. And if council normally does pass the fees bylaw for June 1st, if these changes are major and we do find that engagement with our vendors, we can also look at maybe changing those fees for January of the new year rather than doing it mid-year with the new, our fire season is always busy at the airport. This might be something that might be a little bit of pushback with our vendors. But if there is questions about the airport specifically, Luke is here to answer those.
Okay, so is there any discussion about the community fees, first of all? Go ahead.
I just have
Councillor Lee Breon.
one question, and it's regards to the community use barbecue. Why are we deciding to start charging them $25 now?
So that was my input. Thank you, Councillor Lebron. The majority of our barbecue use is nonprofit organizations. And with that, what we found as administration and Public Works is our Public Works team delivers, retrieves, cleans, refills the propane, and does all of that for all delivery of our barbecue. It would be a one-time or a day use. It's just pretty much cost recovery just for that time, and they do it regardless if it is Monday to Friday regular work hours, and sometimes it might be multiple times in the week and weekends. And we just found that with the nonprofit, we do look at fees of our meeting room rentals. For example, we charge a $10 an hour rate to nonprofit organizations. With the use of our barbecue, it is used a lot in the summer. And we are very generous we try to get everybody in there, but just for that cost recovery and the time and making that priority for the nonprofit organizations, we thought having either a one-time fee or a daily use fee for the nonprofit would be a cost recovery option.
I know it's something that's greatly appreciated by all the nonprofits that use it. I would personally like to see it remain free for them so that we can help those smaller organizations any way we can. But that's just my take.
Councillor Anderson.
I concur with Director Phillips. I really do believe that there's got to be some kind of a fee. So the Senior Center or the Golden Range Society has used the barbecue on 2 or 3 different occasions for multiple days, and the town employees have had to deliver it, retrieve it, clean it, and make it presentable for the next day. And I think there needs to be some kind of a cost recovery for that, and the $25 is a pretty minimal fee. They came and delivered it at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning and picked it up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. And it had to be then cleaned and ready to go probably for Monday morning or who knows when. So I think the nonprofit should not feel that they should get it for $0. Yeah, they're not for profit, but there is a cost involved, and it's a pretty minimal fee that we're asking. So that's my take.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor.
I agree that there should be some minimal cost recovery. Those are pretty expensive units. I can't recall the original capital cost, but 10 or 15,000 per barbecue, right? And we've got 2 of them, so, you know, whether it's just normal wear and tear and the burners, and they can probably go through that much propane in a day if we're providing that. So it's not even cost recovery, it's just contribution to the operational cost.
Well, I'm not going to chime in, but I agree. There has to be a minimal cost.
Okay, don't chime in.
Well, I'm not gonna recite what everybody said, but I do agree. So, do you wanna vote on it? Okay, moving on, Luke. To the airport fees.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I had put together this document based on research and being part of the Alberta Airport Management Association group. And I also looked at the close proximity airports, Peace River, Manning, Fort Vermilion, the Crete, Rainbow Lake, and how they operate and what they charge. And then I also used larger airports that have some of the same services that we provide, like the large forestry base. So I had Slave Lake, Grand Prairie, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, and Fort McMurray as well. The fees that I'm proposing are based off of the comparisons with those airports and what they have to provide and what we have to provide. And going over our fees, we are quite high for the size of our operation. And so the fees on the document that are in green is what I'm proposing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I don't know who came up with these fees, especially the parking fees.
Yeah, so the fees that are on here were the original fees when I got here in 2019.
Okay.
I know since I've got here, we've kind of been on a roundabout of talking about updating them, and it's never happened yet, so.
Council, do you have any questions?
I do.
Councillor Welke.
Have we had any concerns from the users?
I wouldn't say specifically the local users, because, so the local users, again, so on it's my second page. There's some sort of agreement between the tenants with aircraft based at the high-level airport that they get a reduction of 70%. I'm not sure where that agreement.
70%?
70%.
Oh.
I'm not sure where that agreement stemmed from or where it started, but I think that is far too high of a reduction. Usually there is a reduction for local users that have a base hangar or a site that is on the premises, but 70% is pretty extensive.
Did you hear that from NAV Canada, or from Can West?
I saw it on the fees bylaw, so
Really?
I've never seen the agreement, so I'm not aware if there is an actual agreement or if that is just a mistaken note, but.
I've never seen an agreement either.
So.
Interesting.
Yes, Councillor Anderson.
The only concern I have here, and it may not even be part of the equation, but with our annexation in progress and not completed yet, or no resolution to it, by changing fee agreement or fees and stuff at the airport, will that give Mackenzie Counter some fodder to you know, muddy the water further with the annexation? Or are we better off, holding off, making any changes until after that's all rectified? And I don't know if you can answer that, Luke, or not, so.
It wouldn't make a difference with Mackenzie County because we own the airport and we can charge the fees in there.
So long, I'm in agreement, other than that perspective, right?
Yes.
This is based on a 5-minute read of the correspondence with the lawyer that's representing us in arbitration. There's the, what's it?
We go in,
Pardon me?
we go in camera for that?
Well, I was just gonna say, it's, I think, public knowledge. The basis of the arbitration is on the RSSA, and I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but
Regional Service Sharing Agreement.
right. So from my brief review of that, I don't see the fees that are being charged at the airport entering into that debate.
Yeah.
Let's use that term.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, just to give some context to the reduction in leases, or sorry, the reduction of fees for the base operators, because I was director in charge of the airport back then, and that was a council decision probably like 3 terms or so ago of council. It's been there for quite a while. There was no agreement. It was just a decision in the fees bylaw, and the whole intent was to attract. So what it started, if I remember correctly, it was when we started seeing more development of helicopter hangars outside of the community and other private airfields, and the attempt was to reduce the fees to attract business, like to attract those people to the airport. So whether that worked or not is up for debate, but that, I mean, this is probably going back 15 years that has been in place for a long period of time, but there was no agreement. It was just strictly that you get a reduction in fees if you are a base tenant. That was the history behind it. I think it's up for debate whether it worked. Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to bring some,
Arbitrarily picking numbers.
just kind of wanted to bring that history back for council.
Thanks, Rodney. I guess the struggle also is that with what Councillor Anderson said with the annexation, since I've been around, I've had over half a dozen operators approach the airport in looking at developing, and I guess the conflict is that the town runs the airport, but the county owns the land, and so it was such a confusion on how to figure out I guess the entire process and what those operators had to go through, that essentially all of them ended up being local operators, just unfortunately not at our base.
Yeah.
So they're all scattered either east of town or in town, around town, so.
That was with the development permits.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so does anybody, you said that you would like to see this after the fire season, so it doesn't create a problem. Was that you, Luke?
It was
Luke?
more so me, so if council did feel that major changes like this would affect whether it's annexation or whether it's going into the fire season, we're gonna enact this in June, right in the middle of it, and really it is a reduction in our fees for the most part. Administration is still open to putting all of that communication out for June 1st, like we normally do with the fees bylaw.
Do you think it's gonna affect the operations at the airport? Like with fuel, parking?
I don't think it'll affect the operation. I wasn't 100% sure of the process of the communication aspect to how we go about changing the fees. I mean, with I guess the base tenants, the big thing I did want to figure out, which is what Rodney had addressed, was about the reduction. So based on the new fees provided, although they are lower, I believe that with changing that contract from 70% to a higher amount, as well as raising the fuel flowage by 0.5 cent. Based on when we do get busy, that 0.5 cent per liter will, I think, in turn make up for the reduction in some of the rates.
Council? Should we give them 3 months to communication, or 6 months, or? Councillor Welke?
I think I kind of agree with Councillor Anderson's concern that perhaps we just not make any changes right now, especially if we don't feel it will drastically impact operations in the short term. That's my take.
Deputy Mayor?
I know that years ago, the biggest difference between operating the airport in Rainbow Lake and in High Level was the fuel flowage fee. It was always lower here, which created some revenue differences between the two airports in that the planes wouldn't fuel in Rainbow Lake. But they were paying a lower landing fee, so they were trying to double dip, and, you know, you can't blame them. They were taking advantage of the lower costs everywhere. I guess at this point, I would be in favor of leaving the airport fees as they are for the balance of this year, and maybe have this be part of a bigger budget discussion in the fall and enter it fresh for 2025. Hopefully by that time, the annexation has been dealt with. I agree with the CAO. Us changing the fees should have zero impact on that process, but I just think, just given the timing, and that we just push this off for the budget in the fall.
The rest of you? Okay, make a motion.
This would be moving the budget with this as the only amendment, would it not? Or,
This isn't in the budget, is it, these
well,
new
the fees bylaw,
Yeah, but these new fees aren't.
The new fees are not, but our revenues already are as per year-end revenues for any of the airport revenues. But the new fees are not in the budget for the airport.
so I'll move the fees as recommended with the exception of
Schedule B.
the airport.
So
Be discussed in the fall.
administration will bring back the fees bylaw for the 3 readings on the next May 13th meeting with those amendments.
Okay. So all in favor of that? Carried. Thank you for your report, Luke. We will certainly look at it. Those parking fees made me laugh. We must have been up at midnight doing that. Oh, sorry.
Well, are we done with fees now?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's utilities we're supposed to do for council discussion as well.
Where's it? Okay.
Schedule G. So we're raising the, well, I guess it was now just agreed to that we're raising the water consumption to $3.50 from $3, and sewer from $3.50 to $4 per meter squared.
Yeah, that's, sorry. That is already motion in our fees ballot to do the biannual increase of 25 cents. Yeah. We passed that 2 years ago in 2022.
It was supposed to go up every year
Okay,
incrementally.
it just says council discussion, so I just wanted to confirm before we move ahead.
Oh, sorry, the council,
Did you want to discuss it?
the council discussion on utilities was for our waste bin replacement cost as cost recovery. With our new waste collection program, we are the owners of those assets that have went out to the community, but we don't have a line item in there for a replacement fee, whether or not they're damaged by residents or by LMP disposal or our contractor. So administration added in a replacement fee at cost recovery, similar to we do with our water meters. And it's also been a discussion and not in the fees bylaw when we did the waste collection program to do a fee per additional bin. The communication was from Director Straub for $10 a month as a fee for an additional bin. This would be a lease, sort of like an application program, leasing the bin out, that it would just be returned if that person is no longer at the property for that additional bin. Administration provided options that what has happened in our surrounding areas. Some people do a fee for an additional bin, including the waste collection, or they do a bag tag fee for every bag. It hasn't been discussed with our contractor if that bag tag would even be a possibility, but if it is council's wish to have that discussion with them, we can. Or if council wanted to add in an additional waste bin fee to the fees bylaw, we don't actually have a line item for that. And that would be included in the public inserts and announcements on the changes for the all utilities.
I thought we already had this discussion.
We did, but it was never added
Oh.
to the fees bylaw. It wasn't added to the fees bylaw. There was a discussion for the
So
additional.
this is just an addition.
If you were to want an additional bin, it would be council's wish to add that $10, and then we would put that out to the public. I have got inventory from Public Works on how many bins we do have even available, and also the conversation has to be with our contractor on what is that capacity going to look like if all of those additional bins went out when it comes to the delivery of our service for waste collection on the 2 days that we currently have.
Are we allowed to
Councillor
discuss it
Lambert,
even though it was passed already?
Well, it's been passed, it just wasn't in the schedule.
No, but we
We
just
discussed
made a
this
motion
like when we
to,
got the bins.
but we just made a motion to go with the amendments that were just, can we discuss it or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this was one of the things that I wanted to bring up with the waste bins was, I think the additional fee should be a one-time deposit instead of a $10 a month fee. I mean, if someone has it for, 5 years, that's quite a bit of money just for an additional waste bin. And I think going back to the conversation we've had about bag tags, we never discussed what it was going to look like this summer with bags of grass or bags of leaves. We implemented these in the fall, so we really don't know how this is going to look. I know there's probably a few people here that have more bags of grass that would have to be thrown out that their bins can't handle. So I do think that's something that needs to be discussed and decided on.
Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, my recollection is that we talked about the $10 a month for the additional bin when we first ordered these. I guess I wouldn't be opposed to having a one-time fee, but it would have to be significant because our contractor is charging per thing that they tip. And again, I guess if we haven't had a discussion with the contractor about the bag tags, my understanding of how that works, you buy the tag, you put it on your bag at the side of the street, and the operator tips your bin, puts it down, has to get out, physically put those into the bin, tip it again. And considering we went from 1 day collection to 2 day collection because of this, I'm not sure how much buy-in there would be from the contractor, but I guess we could have a discussion. But sorry, my understanding was we had already agreed to the $10 a month.
I thought we had too.
I don't remember that. I mean, I remember there being discussion on it, but I don't remember if there being an agreement on it.
I don't know. We'd have to check the motions.
I mean,
We
going
did have
forward,
the discussion, we did say additional ones would be $10. I don't know if we ever,
I guess the
So-
$10 though isn't for the rental of the bin, it's for the
no, it's
service.
monthly.
okay,
for
but
the
so
service.
my question is, how did this change compared to before when someone had 4 bins that were emptied? There was no additional cost per bin when they had their own. So now we have to charge an additional per month just for them to have an extra bin to throw out more. Like, to me, that doesn't add up to what the service we were providing before.
Right, and I think the conversation that CAO Leaf and we had today on it was we are providing a town asset to that property, and it's not a residence asset that is there. We still do pay the estimated $8 tipping fee per bin is $8. Our increase for the waste collection fee wasn't due to per bin, it was due to the encompassing the 2 bins plus all the tipping fees of the $25 a month. It would be a conversation that we would have to take back to the contractor to see what additional bins is this estimated. Our asset is total replacement, including our shipping, everything for 1 bin is about $93.50 for 1 bin. And it would also depend on our inventory and how much we're willing to bring in also.
So with that comment, our tipping or the fees that we're being charged, is it $8 per bin that's on the street or $8 per residence? Okay, so the tipping fee actually doesn't affect how many bins are on there from what we're being charged by the contractor. So the amount of bins that they have doesn't necessarily affect the cost we're being charged.
Correct, with our current contract. But our contract needs to be renegotiated with our contractor because we carried forward the contract for 1 year to see how this system is working. Unfortunately, Director Straub isn't here to talk on behalf of that, but as administration, I know that I don't want to put a fee on any of our residents' bills if council, one, doesn't have that discussion or it's not related to a fees bylaw. And I just feel like if council doesn't want to do the additional bin, we can bring something back when we do the 3 readings for that amendment. You guys can make a decision then.
So I would like to make a motion if I can.
Just a minute, please. Counselor, or Deputy Mayor, sorry.
So I believe the discussion that we had was based on 2 bins per residence for that $8 a month fee. If we're adding other bins, that's gonna impact on the fee that, right? Because there's a
That's what
cost
I
for
thought.
tipping each one of those, right? And so the ultimate plan is because there's a chip in those, at some point, we could go and it would be based on, you know, they're picking up only 1 bin at my place today, so I only get charged for the 1. So that's down the road once we get into the organics and all the rest. But my understanding was the contract was based on 2 bins per residence. Whether people put 2 out or not, you know, I guess that's to their advantage. But if there were suddenly 3 bins at half the residences in town, I don't think we'd be in compliance with our contract. And this is all on a sort of a temporary basis as they get used to the new system as well.
I guess one more question. Has anyone tried to purchase an additional or lease an additional bin yet?
Yes, so we've had residents inquire right from the start because of, one, like Deputy Mayor says, it was unknown when this program ran out, was rolled out with what actually can we fit. A lot of people thought going from 4 quantity to a 2 quantity was going to impact, and I think that it has slowed down, but if we are going to impose a fee, it does need to be advertised, it does need to go out to the public, and whether or not the contractor could, I guess, carry that load of those additional bins would ultimately be part of that factor as well.
So if we charge $8, so that means $4 a bin on every, so why wouldn't we just charge an extra $4?
We can charge whatever fee council wants. It really is. So just providing the replacement cost of it. Our tipping fee cost is $8, but we also have a collection contract with our contractor that is what, about
get it.
9, yeah.
So I mean, we'll have to renegotiate
Yeah.
if council decides
Right.
if we want these
Exactly.
egg bags and.
Exactly,
everything else.
whatever council's decision is, that's what we would have to negotiate and put into our contract with them.
So is there any way we can pull back on this till council has a more fulsome
Yeah.
discussion, not at 9:30 at night?
Yeah, for sure, Madam Mayor. We could take all of those questions to the contractor to state like, this is what is being presented, what is actually doable with our current contract, and the drive for this originally was the labor force, right? So is the bag tags an absolute no, and then a fee imposed for an additional bin?
So could we have that conversation with the LNP then?
Yes.
So we'll take the utilities out of this? Can you make an amendment to your? I know we did, but I didn't give him a chance to speak. And that's my mistake, but I never realized it was in there for discussion. Can you tell me? I see him. But I'm asking the CAO, is there any way we can take this out of the fees bylaw, or do we have to pass the fees bylaw?
If council wishes to amend the document that's in front of you and instruct staff to withhold, that council is prepared to approve the fees with the exception of the following utilities. And then whether you want to instruct for us to bring back a report from the contractor, what's in there. One of the things that Director Phillips and I talked briefly about today, that I believe one member of council talked about, is what about your compostable waste? That's a very expensive, organics are expensive to landfill. And maybe we'll bring that back as part of the discussion. I'm gonna say, my experience, that third bin is needed spring and summer. People's waste habits, once you hit, when it's freezing, at least south of Grand Prairie, is, you know, you don't have the same waste creation in the winter months that you do now. And again, that's, we can get those stats from the contractor and bring that back for council's consideration as well.
Regards to the $10 charge. So when we made that, if my memory is correct, we were gonna let it run like that for a year and then get feedback from our contractor, right? So that's something that we definitely need from him. But my comment's more so to the bag and tag. Are we able to come back with a number, a direct number of what those tags are gonna cost if he's able to even run those?
Yes, we can definitely bring back the options. So administration's, I guess, position with our contractor would be, this is what was proposed to council in our briefing note. These are the options in the surrounding area. Mackenzie County does a similar waste collection program with the bags and also with the bins. And this is just a briefing note. I understand council did make the motion, but we still have to bring this bylaw back to council for 3 readings with amendments or without.
So can you make a friendly amendment, Deputy Mayor, to take utilities out and let it be discussed further? Or do you want it to go to readings and fail?
We're revisiting a decision we've already made. How often do we discuss these things? So, I don't know. Councillor Lebron, I think, summarized it, that this is for the 1-year period until we have a chance to revisit it with the contractor, so.
So your solution is when it goes to the bylaw to not pass the second reading, if you want to bring further information.
discuss with the contractor, or?
Yeah, we're going to. She's gonna bring that information. We'll do first reading for information. Second reading, if you can turn this down. And don't let it go to unanimous consent. All right. The final sorry. Can we take 10 minutes, please?
Did council vote? Oh,
No vote on.
Oh, sorry. Can we have a motion on that? It was a long discussion. All in favor of Deputy Mayor's motion?
Can we have that motion brought back to council so that we know what we're actually voting on?
Pass the fees.
So right now it is moved by Deputy Mayor Langford that council requests that administration bring the fees bylaw number 143-24 to the next regular council meeting, with the exception of the airport, to be discussed in the fall 2024 budget,
All in favor?
or 2025 budget. So I said the wording's not perfect.
All in favor? Those opposed? I thought you wanted to oppose it.
For fun, if anybody wants the original garbage motion that was
No, he
made.
doesn't want that
No,
either.
okay. There was no fee in it.
That's okay. It's crazy.
what's that saying?
the operating budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, I did put alternative one to just, review, give your, input on any changes to bring back to the May 13th meeting as a final. I also put the alternative in there to make amendments as is to approve it tonight, and then this way administration can go ahead with just bringing the tax rate bylaw to the next meeting, because we will be bringing that as well to the May 13th meeting, because we do send our tax notices out middle of May. So any questions I can answer as best as I can.
I'm still distraught over this $60,000 master key. But anyways, council, is there anything that you see in there that you want to address? Yeah. So, if nobody has anything to address, I would like to, on my big page here, 230. So 12-00230 on page 2 of 21. Under the consultant and professional fees.
Right, our government relations
Yep.
contract.
So I would like to leave that in the budget, but I want to have a discussion on that with council.
Okay.
And holy moly, why don't we hire a IT person with our Trinus contract?
Yes, so our Trinus contract, that was the Preferred Plus service agreement that we brought to council last year due to our staff member that is on disability. Plus, we do have a consistent visit on site every month. Our Gabriel from Trinus, he does come every month to do her facility checks. He'll actually be here this week to go and finish off the airport fiber SuperNet connection with Luke. So it's been working great on and off depending on, we were used to that hands-on, but also we need to be used to remote and being that contact out to IT.
So you don't have any problems getting in touch with Trinus, them doing anybody in our operations?
Like I personally don't. I know there is some maybe frustrations or, but I do feel that any time that I've reached out, employees have emailed or followed up with a phone call. It is also our due diligence to reach out. They don't know what ticket is going to come up if the employees don't do that first step as well. I've never had issues. They are very good at arranging trips here. It is included. We have 24/7 service with them.
Okay. Was your mic on?
Oh, I was going to ask the same question. How was the service for people reaching out for
Gabriel speaks a different language than me. Anybody else? Everybody's ready to pass this? Deputy Mayor?
So there would be the one amendment based on what we did with the fire tonight?
Right, I've included removing the 150, adding in that $80,000 for the motion. So it would increase the reserve surplus at the end, $70,000.
So I'll move the budget as amended.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. We've only been at it for a time. Okay, under new business, the request for decision with Canada Mortgage. I'm okay with this, but I would like changes in the letter.
And let me preface this, and I'm sure that council's aware, thank you. I'm sure that council's aware of I believe it's Bill 18 is the recent provincial government's budget legislation that's making any agreement that a municipality enters into with the federal government requires the province's approval. My personal opinion is that's related to some agreements that Calgary and Edmonton have undertaken that are at odds with provincial philosophy. Unfortunately, we're all wrapped into the same thing. The wording on the letter, it's going to come from the mayor, and you can get into what changes you would like. The one recommendation I would have, and again, this was a discussion we had administratively today, was do we typically, when you contact the federal government, you also then contact the various ministries in the provincial government to make them aware of that. At this point in time, I think there would be advantages to get our name in the line or in the list. But from some of the news articles that I've read, it sounds like the Prime Minister is saying, well, if you don't like our rules, we'll take our money and go elsewhere. So I think there's nothing to lose with sending it out, but I wouldn't draw attention to the, bring us to the province's attention at this particular point in time until we hear back from the feds that this actually is a program that's going to be available in Alberta.
So I had a suggestion that we send it to Minister Sean Fraser, not just Chris.
Sorry, you're sending it to whom?
Well, it says to Chris Workington.
And again, I'm not familiar. It should be going to whoever's the federal minister that's responsible.
That's Sean Fraser.
Okay, then that's who should be reflected in the letter.
It should be CC'd to our MP, Chris Workington.
Okay.
And I thought maybe we'd send it to Randy Bossino too. Because he's the only Liberal person we have in the...
And this can be CC'd to whomever council wishes to include. My caution right now, I guess, is I wouldn't draw the province's attention to the request that's being made by council.
Okay. What does council think? Should we send this letter to the feds? With some edits? Okay.
But not CCing it.
Correct.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Lydia, would you be able to send me a copy of this and I'll put my edits in there so it sounds like me? Okay, thank you. Okay, could someone make that motion, please?
I can make.
Councillor Jessamine, all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. A request for decision of the property tax.
Mayor and Council.
Director of Finance.
This is just from our April 8th resolution for the High Level Native Friendship Center application. So we have received everything and it's just administration to move alternative 1.
Could someone make that motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
So we've had discussions in the past on the one unit on 100th Street. They now have it as a food bank. They used to have it as the youth center. That building is basically never used. So don't they run the food bank out of their main office?
Mm-mm. They run it out of a building where Rona used to be.
Okay. So I'm not sure why we would give a tax break on a building that's not being used for that purpose. I know we've exempted it out before.
Right.
Yeah, because they said it was used as a youth.
Yeah, there's, no one ever uses that building.
I don't know, council, what do you think?
So in the past, council has removed that property, as Deputy Mayor said, with more clarification and, I guess, reporting from High Level Native French Center. So if that property does want to be, or council does want to remove that, that it has been done in the past based on what the actual usage is.
So,
Councillor Welke?
so I guess in this particular organization's circumstance, it's a little more complex than just a organization asking for this exemption wherever they're operating. These guys have multiple properties and maybe are using some and not. So we don't have the provision within the request form to say what is actually happening in that building? Is it in there?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says it's a food bank.
Yeah,
And,
so
and
it's
then
all,
that's what they put for this year, so we're asking them to, I guess, prove that
we
if they
don't.
want it to be exempt?
We could ask, but normally, based on Copter, so based, like our, based on their assessment and where they're following in those guidelines, their application states that this building is used for that purpose, but no evidence is ever provided, but
Even when
we
we
can
denied it
request. We have requested and with no evidence being presented based on their application, we have denied that property. It was previously, I think, the YAC or Youth Center, the Youth Center, and it was vacant. And the High Level Native Friendship Center Society accepted that it was vacant. That's why council did deny the request for the exemption, so.
So they're actually saying that that place is being held as a food warehouse. Yeah. You see the no activity there?
Even as a storage facility, they might not be using it actively with the public, but
No, they're not using it with the public. So what do you want, council? You wanna leave it in or take it out? It's your motion? Okay, Councillor Lebrion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so no notice of motions. Can we move into closed session, please? Someone want to make that motion? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried.
tell the public, so ends our.
So